it helps make a record. The reason I want to record this is it helps make a record of what's going on in our timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and how we're experiencing this reality
Mm-hmm.
as step by step. And you can look at what we've done in the past and what we've talked about maybe 6 months ago, and then you can see what we're talking about today. But
Right.
the concept of reversal is, if you look at the newspaper,
Yes.
you'll see cases where somebody kidnapped their child,
Okay.
or somebody did some terrible crime within their family.
Right.
Like a father abused their daughter, or maybe they drove over the cliff in their SUV and killed all their children. And it's always some horrific crime at the personal level. In other words, they knew the victim, and the crime was within their own family, or within a neighbor's family, or something like that. In other words, they're always trying to paint ordinary humans as deviant and horrible and abusive.
Right.
Now, these are not made up stories. They're true. There's true cases of that. But
Right.
the percentage of people who do those horrible things to their families is extremely small.
Of course.
It's unbelievably small.
Right.
Yet why do we see these stories? They call it true crime. Like, they keep going again and again. If there isn't any true crime today, we'll just go for historical true crime. Let's talk about Picton again, or let's talk
Right.
about some other, atrocity again. And why are they doing this? They're doing this as a form of reversal to cover up the fact that I believe there's an
Mm-hmm.
institutionalized, pervasive plan to persecute and maybe kidnap and maybe exploit our children.
Oh,
And they don't want you to think about the fact that maybe the child services could be abusing kids.
of course.
Maybe the foster home programs could be abusing kids.
Yes.
They don't want you to think about that. They want you to think it's all your fault. Individual families are dirty. It's never the government doing these horrible things on an organized basis,
Right.
right? And then when the overwhelming evidence becomes so strong, then they'll just kind of like burn one of their own, and they'll say it's a bad apple. Oh yeah, we got this guy who's in charge of foster homes, and oh, he stole all the kids' money and abused them and so on, exploited them and so on. And that's just a bad apple. That's just one of them that did that. But he did.
Right.
But then we find out the details. He's been doing it for 20 years. What? Huh? In other words, when they get caught, then they burn their own. But this is always going on in the background, and to distract us from the fact that it's
Right.
institutionalized, it's at the government level, they always point out the individual cases that they can find.
Right. Right.
It's a smokescreen in a way,
It is.
because
Yes.
the numbers involved are
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable. It's tens of thousands versus one or two.
Right.
Have you looked at the number of missing children in the United States and Canada in every given year?
No.
And
Regrettably not.
why is that? Why is it not in the newspaper? They have an Amber Alert when 12-year-old Cecilia suddenly disappeared at the water slides.
Correct.
That's just one girl.
Yes.
You see what I'm talking
Well,
about
the
here?
media has been controlling our thoughts by selectively picking and choosing information to feed us with.
That's right.
Okay, it's been sadly that has been a known fact or
That's right.
observable phenomenon for the past, I would say, at least 30 to 40 years.
Absolutely.
It has gotten worse over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't gotten any better because there's a lack of transparency
Yep.
over the information that they feed us
Yep.
on a daily basis. Yes, on a community level, they would definitely, give us some, say, bank robberies happening on the other side of town,
Yes.
traffic accidents that kill a couple of guys, car
Yes.
bursted on fire, those kind of things,
Yes.
up to the minute stories and such. But other
Yes.
than that, on a broader scale, from a broader perspective, a lot of times they pick and
They
choose
sure
the
do.
information they want to feed us.
And they do that.
And in over time, they set up the narratives, they set up a condition to selectively feed us and condition us to believe in things that they want us to believe in. But
that's why the media
usually ended up missing the bigger picture, because after all, it's a form of manipulation.
Let's look at the examples you just mentioned. They talk about a bank robber, whereas the fact is that the banks are manipulating the LIBOR exchange rates, the gold and the silver, prices, and the international, monetary system to such an extent that you have things like the so-called, International Monetary Fund lending money to countries, knowing full well they can never repay it.
That's right.
And then when they can't repay it and they miss a few payments, they'll send in some multinational corporation to privatize their industries.
Yes.
And their mining or their natural resources or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, you don't own your country anymore. You've lost your sovereignty because the IMF came and lended you money, and perhaps even they put corrupt politicians in charge of your country in advance of that process, because then they got bribable people that they can get to sign those loan agreements. And then, and 5 or 6 years later, when the loans come due, those people those corrupt politicians in your country are somehow gone. They've retired to their yachts and their plantations and their haciendas because they've been paid off to sell out their people. And now, all of a sudden, the people find themselves with a 3,000% increase in the price of basic foods, energy, even water, because multinational corporations now own their resources.
That's right.
And this is their plan, and it's been going on for years, and that's how they do it. But no, we don't know about that. We don't even understand that, because all we can focus on is the bank robber who pulled out a gun and robbed a couple $1,000 from some bank. But we don't realize that millions of people were robbed.
That's right.
And maybe we ourselves are being robbed every day in another way, which we don't see. And that, for example, these projects. Here in BC, we have something called the Dam C.
Site C Dam.
Site C Dam.
Right.
What's that for? How many billions of dollars was that?
Last I heard was in excess of 20 or 30 billion.
But 20 or 30 billion? You mean an amount of money that could wipe out all homelessness?
That's right.
All poverty in BC.
Yep.
Overnight.
Yep.
So why are we spending 20 or 30 billion on a Site C Dam? Can anybody explain that? Since we're a current exporter of electricity, we export electricity under the Columbia River Treaty to California, Oregon, and Washington State.
Right.
So why do we have to build a Site C Dam? We already have excess production of electricity. So why would we need to do that? We don't need to do that. And besides which, what about conservation efforts? For example, we could replace all of our highway lights, are the current potassium fluoride lights, I believe they are, with sodium lamps. We could replace all those with LEDs.
Right.
Now those lights are on every night all over the province. That would save untold megawatts of power.
That's right.
So why are we building Site C? Has there ever been a rational discussion of that in the media? Of course not. Does anybody even know what the hell's going on with that? No, of course not. And here's the rub. Site C has apparently been built in an unstable geological area where there's a huge crack under the dam that they're having a hard time fixing.
That's right.
Which will cause untold billions of more to rectify.
That's right.
All of this is done without any peep or word
at least
from
without our consent or
our consent,
understanding.
or our understanding,
Right.
or our political leaders. For example, the previous government who made these agreements, when we had an election, the NDP government, which we have now, just rubber stamped what the previous government did without any question whatsoever.
That's right.
That's because both governments are artificial. It doesn't matter what political party, they're all under the control of an unseen hand.
That's right.
And that unseen hand is reversing always. It's taking away what we think is true and replacing it with what they want us to believe is true. We think we need a Site C dam. No, we don't. We think that our children are being protected. No, they're not. We think that 12-year-old girls need a sex change operation because they've decided that they're a boy. Hell no.
Hmm.
It's always reversal. It's always flipping it back and throwing it in our faces until we wake up.
That's right.
Are we being assaulted with this concept at all levels of society? Financial, personal, in your family. If you try to raise your children the way you want, in a sovereign manner, you're accused of being a deviant, a pervert, some kind of radical.
Right.
That's reversal, isn't it?
That's right.
They're
Yep.
flipping it. You're trying to be free, and they're trying to put you in prison. And they're blaming you. You're the bad guy. You're the one that's wrong. You know, and even our court systems. For example, if you protest against the government, then you're on the fringe, and the RCMP will come to your house and they'll find guns.
Yep.
But you know, in Canada you have the right to own and possess firearms. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
But then they say that they were then they say that they were unregistered. Well, so you're a criminal for having a firearm to protect your home, and then they say that you have to register it with them.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, what about the violence used against people who try to protest legally? They're arrested by constables with firearms, and they're put in jail, and their trucks are taken away, and their bank accounts are drained, and they're using
Right.
guns against you.
Yep.
And if you try to defend yourself against a criminal that comes into the house and wants to rape or kill or steal, then that was an unregistered firearm and you're a criminal. It's another reversal.
That's right.
They reserve the right to use violence and force against you, but if you try to defend yourself in any way without their permission, then you're the bad guy.
Stop.
Stop.